Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Here's the reason why I moved from being a journalist to being a scriptwriter is because that's where the money is. But the opportunity, I don't know how it's going to come to you or you're going to get to the opportunity. It's just a matter of luck.
Hi, welcome to Swishing Mindsets. I'm Anuradha. I'm speaking to Manish Gaekwad, author of Nautch Boy, a memoir of my life in the kothas, a sequel to his earlier book, The Last Courtesan, Writing My Mother's Memoir. Hi, Manish.
Hi, Anuradha.
Yeah, it's so nice talking to you. Like we were just, I was just telling you that I've read all your books. I feel like I'm in your head. I know you. You're my friend. You know, so I'm going to start asking you questions. There's so much to talk about. But
Thank you for having me on your podcast. And that's a very lovely note to begin with, because you are so fully prepared that you are actually making me anxious and nervous as to what is coming next.
No, don't be anxious because, if you don't know what to say, I know what to say because I've read everything, right? So I can speak for you.
Yes, which will be fantastic because I'm going to fumble and stumble.
Yeah.
But I know that you're there to
I'm there. Yeah.
support me.
Absolutely. So, Manish, I want to start by asking you, you've really honored your mom through this book, right? And I mean, that's what I felt when I was reading her story. I felt like, you're talking about a modern independent woman. And I want to ask you, right at the start, what is a Tawaif and a kotha? Because it's obviously different from a brothel, right? So let's set that out first.
Absolutely, Anuradha, and that's a perfect like starter question for this conversation to first of all dispel the myths about what a kotha and what a brothel is. And there is a uh, vast difference between the two of them. One, but it can also be simplified in just one sentence. A brothel is a place that provides you sex work, and there are sex workers there who are offering that service. So that is a brothel. A kotha is a place that provides you entertainment by performers trained in the classical arts of singing and dancing. There is no sex soliciting attached at the end of that performance. So, uh, so it's very different from what a brothel does. When you go to a brothel, you solicit for sex. Nobody's going to sing and dance for you. And if they do, which is great, they should ask you for more. You should have to pay more for that because that's a totally different art form. Uh,
Yeah.
and in the kotha, you pay for the entertainment, and then if you think you're going to get sex because it comes free or 1+1, that's not how it works.
I think they're kicked out if they try any
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And mostly the patrons know that they have come here for entertainment. Yes, once in a while somebody will act fresh, but then they are shown the door immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading, in the first book that you've written, your mother's story in her voice, that there are a lot of ustads that are teaching, like you said, they're trained in classical music and dance. And, this one excerpt, like you've written about your mother, and like she was a vision in a white sari after a bath. She used to play the Stanpura and used to watch her, she's like Goddess Saraswati herself. That's how you remember her.
Yes.
So obviously it's an art, right?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Not once in my mother's thoughts does the fear occur that she is going to have to do something to compromise her body after her performance. And because she doesn't have that fear, and she knows that's not the next thing, she is completely uninhibited and open and free and liberated to continue doing the things that she loves, which is singing and dancing. Uh, and she, I think, does a great job at it.
Yeah, and then her signature move, no, which you've written about, that she can bend over completely backwards and take the currency notes from their hand or something, no?
Oh, absolutely. She bends over backwards and picks up the currency notes with her mouth. And
Yeah,
that's something I've probably only seen in a circus
yeah,
with the performer, an acrobat picking up maybe um, an apple with their mouth or an orange or something like
yeah.
that.
Did you see her do that? Because you were
I,
kept away, right? Most of the time, yeah.
yes, but I do remember this once.
Okay.
I do remember this once
Yeah.
seeing her bending over to pick up money, and I think I was very small at that time,
Hmm.
very very small,
Yeah.
and I think that stayed with me when I went to the circus, thinking, "Oh, my mother is a circus performer."
I think you had a lot of ideas about what your mother was, because you said that even in Bollywood, you were watching all these actresses and who were playing Tawaifs, and you thought that's a great profession because your mom's doing that, they're doing that, Jaya Prada is playing that, you know? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I thought she was a film actor for a long time because she was so glamorous, and she actually, once the sun sets and dusk arrives, is when the women transform from motherly figures to these angelic women singing and dancing and performing so beautifully that there is no difference between what you see on screen and what you see in the kotha. It's as mesmerizing, I would say.
Yeah, but coming back to your story, I'm so obsessed with your mother after reading about her. So, coming back
That's
to,
the whole idea, Anuradha, to
yeah.
get everybody obsessed with her and make the story move as far and wide as possible to bring a better understanding to the courtesan and the courtier.
Yeah, and she's, what you're saying, that, the men were not allowed unless she chose to, That's what I'm saying. A modern, independent woman who's living life on her terms. And, what I felt is strength of character shines through when you're writing about her. And it's a real, because, she's looking after entire family. I mean, she's literally sold off by when she's married off at what, under 10? She's under 10, and then she's sold off by her in-laws. And then
Yes.
she gets out of there, finds her family, and then she realizes you have to take care of everybody, and this profession is going to give me the money, you know? So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
She was very smart to have embraced her difficult situations with so much willingness and use the form of art instinctively to survive.
Yeah. And on her terms, it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like
All
for,
on her
mm,
own terms.
yeah.
I I think of her as no less than a man caught up in a trap and
Yeah.
finding their way out and making the best of it without at any time succumbing or playing victim.
Yeah, and you've said that, they neither you nor your mother, I mean, you couldn't play victim. You were not victims, which I found
Yes,
really nice.
absolutely. I think we learn to celebrate our ourselves in situations like this because I think we find ourselves also very lucky and fortunate to have survived all of this. And we tend not to hark back or uh, dwell on it because the whole point of such a life is that if you cannot celebrate it, then it will go completely the other way, which is uh, not a good place to be.
Yeah, because, when you're reading about a story like this, it can be depressing, but this is not depressing at all.
Yes. Yes,
It's
yes,
not at all depressing because, she moves from one kotha to the next. She takes a room, sets it up, gets her patrons, and one day where you've written that, she didn't even have food to eat. And then somebody got her a sweet, and because she's just has to set it up again, moving cities from Kolkata to Bombay, coming back. I mean, it's amazing
Oh,
and all for a family. Yeah.
oh, absolutely, Anuradha. I think also as I think as Indians, we don't have time to think. We don't have time to philosophize our lives. We have to move on. We are not a people or a culture that's sitting back and leisurely and thinking about what to do next. We have so much at stake, whether it's our family, whether it's our children, and we have to constantly find a way to survive the odds. So she was really on the move without really putting too much thought into um, how to, you know, process this, but act first.
Yeah, I think duty was a big deal, especially earlier. I won't say that in our generation now, it's still there. But in that generation, everything was led by duty, right? With a second thought, you do for your family, you do for everybody around you.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. That
Yeah.
sense of duty was there because also you have to understand, Anuradha, that she grew up in an environment where there were what, sisters, nine
Yeah.
siblings, and one brother. There were 10 kids who were starved and who didn't have enough to eat. They didn't have clothes to wear. They
Yeah,
would,
it was so sad when I read that, like, they washed their clothes, they had to wait for it to dry before because they didn't have a change of clothes. They had to sit in the field and wait.
yes.
Like, yeah.
So for her, it is sitting in the field is probably the only time that she's had time to pluck a flower and think about beauty.
Yeah.
But otherwise, life has been very fast with her, quick with her, and she's always been on the move.
Yeah, and with the goat, her pet goat, right? And the song,
Yes,
Kya Firki Wale Firana.
yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. There's just music everywhere. So, tell me one thing. I wanted to ask you, right at the outset, in fact, like, do you dance? Do you still dance?
Privately, of course, I do.
Okay.
In the bathroom, in my bedroom, in my hall room, when I'm alone with myself, I can break into a jig. But publicly, I think I'm still a little bit hesitant about opening up so much.
Yeah, because the way you've written, like since you were a child, you were copying those moves and it came naturally to you. Like what you said, I'll just write it. I mean, I'll just quote it. You said there was always instrumental music playing inside my head when I walked, right? Drums, pipes, strings. I choreographed each step like I was hopping onto giant water leaves strewn across a pond, right? And you said that my moves are of a tawaif, slow, sinuous, sensual. And this I like, moving was dancing for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I still think of that. I
Yeah.
still think uh, the if I want, I can completely go back to that place and imagine a world that is filled with music and dance. And even now, if I'm going out for a walk, yeah, in the steps that I take, I might feel that rhythm of dance still
Yeah.
running in my veins.
Oh,
Absolutely.
fantastic. What a legacy.
Yes, yes,
Such
absolutely.
joy, right? To feel that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
So with so much music around, I think it was just in my veins. It was just in my blood that even if I was being trained by my mother to choose another profession, uh, it just seemed to be there in me. And so it's kind of seeped into my writing and it colors everything that I write with music.
Tell me about this bond that you shared, this connection with music. Because you've written, I was telling you earlier that, I could just hear all the songs in my head, all the Wahida Rahman numbers and everything else, Sri Devi numbers, so many. You've written about your own love for Sri Devi. And so, what was it? And you said that when she had to speak to you, or she had to taunt you, or tease you, she'd play that song, sing that song from Kamchor. I'm very bad with lyrics, so I'm not quoting them. So she would sing that song from Kamchor, if you were not listening to her or something.
Yes, what was that song? I'm forgetting it now.
Huh. Yeah, even I'm
Tumse,
forgetting. Huh?
no, I forgot the song.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Good, you're as bad as me. That's good. But yeah, like, so anyway, I'm just saying, what were these songs that you shared and, how was it like at that time? What are your memories? Yeah.
Anuradha, the thing is, I think music enters me, my body, even before I'm born. She goes to the cinemas to watch movies when she's pregnant. So somehow that music is already getting into us. And because she's a dancer, because she's a singer, her whole body is filled with that music, right? So why will it not run into me? So even as just a plus, as just a, what do you call it? At when you're gestating,
Yeah.
even at that point, the baby is being infused with music.
Yeah.
So it was very, very natural for me to have that in me and find music in everything I do.
Yeah, that's beautiful, really. But tell me something about that era, the kind of, because I've read it and I just want people who are listening to get a taste of it, that the kind of music that you heard, they danced to, and, what was all around you, all that.
Also, I think what is the world without music? It becomes so unlivable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, and because growing up in the kotha, the one thing that was constant was the radio. The radio never stopped. I don't think we switched it off. So at any point of time in the kotha, there was always a song of Lata or Rafi playing on the radio. I couldn't escape it. And so when I went to the boarding school, there was no music. There was no music. And our boarding school was on top of a hill, and it was very far away from the marketplace or the mostly inhabited places where people live. And so from the hill, when we looked down the valley, I could see a playground at some distance where somebody would play a radio in the evening. And the songs from the radio would sort of, stream up, and I would hear those songs. It, so I would stand on the balcony and listen to those songs, and I would pay so much attention, picking up each word of the lyrics so that I didn't miss out on what this new song on radio is. And it kind of connected me to the kotha from where I was missing. So the music kind of followed me even when I was not in the kotha.
Yeah, that's beautiful, really. And you uh, danced with abandon, really, even in school in the beginning, no? Because you didn't realize it's considered too feminine or odd, right? And the girls in your class, I think they dressed you up, and you did that Nautch Mayuri, Nautch Mayuri, right? I'm very
Nachi.
bad with song references. So
In the kotha, what happens is the Tawaifs, they don't teach their child to be a girl or a boy. They let you be whoever you want to be. So when I was playing with the Barbie doll, my mother didn't really stop me from playing that. So when the other Tawaifs in the kotha saw that I could move my hips like my mother, they would uh, they would put me in a dress, or they would play the song and say, "Show us your moves." And if I did that, applaud. They would applaud me. So I thought, oh, this is how life is, and this is what I like, and this is how I'll turn up, and I'll become a Tawaif just like them. And this is how it is. So there was no one to tell me how to behave like a boy or a girl. It's only when I went to the boarding school that these parallels were drawn between how a boy behaves and how a girl behaves. But in the first few years, when I hung out with the girls in the boarding school, they enjoyed my performances, and they uh, put me on stage in Ghungroos and Ghagra and made me do Nache Mayuri and Sun Saiba Sun. And I think it's the men, it's the male teachers, it's the boys who looked at me as uh, an alien and oddity. It was never the women or the girls. So that really confused me because now I'm looking at how I've grown up in the kotha, which is completely matriarchal. There is no influence of men in the kotha to tell me that I should go out and ride a bicycle or I should play cricket. Of course, there were other boys out there who were also playing cricket or riding a bicycle. Uh, but my mother never asked me to go and join them. She let me be whoever I wanted. So I think all of that conditioning comes from when you step out of the kotha and the world tells you how to be.
Yeah. How to be a boy, you've also written, about your mom. She didn't know how to raise a boy, right? And
Yes.
you've written with great tenderness, of course, because, you can't judge her. How would she know? Right. And, but as you grow, you realize, but at that time, like, my heart was going on to the little boy that you were, So how do you see that little boy? Because I'm like, come on, get him a toy, you know. And you said, you said like, nobody got me a toy, and she got a cake for your birthday every year. But it was more like a political maneuvering, because then all the boys wanted to be your friend, But it was never like a birthday is being celebrated or stuff like that. So, and then, when you went back home, your grades weren't good, you were getting beaten up. That's how it was with all of us, when we were children in that era. So, so this not being able to raise a boy, and that, and you said you were a quiet boy, which reminds me of how your mother was. She also never opened her mouth when she was younger. So I felt like both of you were very similar at that age, So how was it? How do you look at the little boy now?
That's very perceptive of you, Anuradha, to point that out about the two of us having that same demeanor of quiet child. Uh, yes, I now that I think about it, my mother didn't really have childhood. She was robbed of her childhood when she was married off at 8 or 10, I think, and sent to her in-laws' husband's house now, where she was doing the work of a adult woman, which is cooking, cleaning, washing, looking after the herd, uh, and being a wife. And she was looking after her husband's brothers and sisters like they were her children. And they were older than most of them. So she didn't really know how to, when she had her own child, first of all, she wanted a girl. So she didn't know how to raise a boy because she hadn't been raised correctly herself. And then how do you raise a boy in a kotha? It's a place for girls. Uh, so I think she learned by watching the other Tawaifs how they were raising their boys. So if violence was a form of protection, she thought that was the best way to keep the child safe inside. Uh, and at that time, I didn't understand it because I didn't have the capacity to understand it. But now, when I look back, I think about it and I understand where she's coming from. So, of course, there was a phase in my teenage years when the violence was not okay with me, but there was no way for me to stop it. Uh, the only way for me to avoid it was to either run away or leave the kotha and go and live with her family in the slums in Pune. So I tried the most non-violent ways of getting away from violence by staying away from her as far as possible. And I think I did that longer than my teenage years when I started even working. Um, so that gulf between us, you know, started at around that time. And it went on for a long time, for which I probably think that we didn't get enough time to sit together and have a chat for many, many years.
Yeah. Yeah, you've written about that. Tell me, you spoke about your time just now. You just mentioned, living in the slums. And there too, you were like an outsider because you spoke English, you looked different. Although you were there, completely, getting into their lifestyle and making desi daru also, right? You've even written about how it's made.
Yeah.
So, doing all of that. So it's like, you were like an outsider there. And even here, you've said that, when you were writing letters to Bandook Gully from your hostel, you tried to avoid sending letters because, you didn't want to write Bandook Gully. I think you tried some other word for it, you used another word for it, but the letters wouldn't reach. So do you feel like an outsider, imposter, whatever? So how do you feel today? Do you feel assimilated? How do you see yourself in this world today?
Yes, Bandook Gully, by the way, I must say I used to write that as Bandhu Gully because Bandhu means a friend.
Friend, yeah, yeah.
And I thought I'll just remove the K and make it Bandhu Gully so that it sounds like Friends Lane. And then I translated the Banduk Gully to Friends Lane,
Yeah.
and I put that on the address, and the postman probably never found
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
Friends Lane is.
Yeah.
So that happened later when I got too smart for my own good. But yes, you're right. As a child, I was an outsider in the boarding school. I was an outsider even in the slums. I felt like an insider only in the kotha.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Uh, and I was an outsider in the slum because there I had the voice of privilege, which I got from the boarding school. So I spoke like a very classist, upper caste, uh, entitled, privileged child who went to the slums and said, "Who are these dirty people living in inhospitable conditions? And I have to live with them, and I have to speak Hindi, and I have to learn Marathi and their Pede ki bhasha, which is that Kanjar Bhat Samaj, their special dialect." And I was very uptight about not wanting to speak any other language other than English. So, and of course, I didn't look like them because uh, for whatever reason, I didn't look like them.
Yeah, they also
So,
had tattoos, I guess, and you don't have that, like your
yes,
grandmother and everybody. Yeah.
yes. And also, when the police came to round off my cousins and relatives, they wouldn't take me in the van because they said, "ये यहाँ का नहीं
But I feel that was kind of them, they didn't want to spoil your career for your
लगता."
future.
But I actually wanted secretly, I aspired to go to a lockup at least for one day so that I could put it later on in my book saying,
Yeah, you
as
could
a
have put it in the
writer,
book. You missed out on that.
I was so close to the lockup. I went to the police station and I saw my relatives inside the lockup, and I wished I was inside, even if for half an hour.
Yeah, like damn, I missed it.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that happened. So my mother actually sent me to the slums, or I got there because it was a good thing for me to unlearn my privilege of boarding school. That English speaking boy who goes to the slums and learns how to sit with the poor and the underprivileged uh, on the floor and eat, bajre ki roti with achar and pyaz and be okay with that. And so I had to then find the balance between uh, having the privilege of English and being okay with my family, which my mother's family, which never got an opportunity like me.
Yeah, because you've written, some are security guards somewhere, somebody's a janitor, sweeper somewhere.
Yes.
So, but they're making their way in the world, I suppose. And
Yes, it's a hard life, but they're
yeah,
making their
yeah. So are
way.
you still in touch? I mean, you must be, I'm sure.
I am, but you know
Hmm.
what? The thing is, Anuradha, at that time when I was 16, 17, is when I went there and I stayed there for 2 years and 3 years, is when I realized that I don't belong there.
Yeah.
And they uh, also don't belong in my world.
Yeah. So
In
again,
a
I'm telling you, stop me if I get personal, it's none of my business, some of the stuff. But because I've read so much, I'm losing those boundaries. Yeah, so tell me.
So I realized that I have to get out of that place if I want to make a career for myself and live a good life. Because
Yeah,
I went there, I tried to teach the children how to speak or how to study and learn their, I mean, take them to entertainment parks and uh,
yeah,
show them the world around them. But they were not very interested in getting out of the
yeah.
slum because it's that whole frog in the well syndrome.
Mm-hmm. And I guess they are content, for you, maybe it looks like they're not doing well enough, they could do better.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I tried for them to learn how to keep the place clean and, you
yeah.
know, general basic hygiene. But they were just not interested in anything that I was trying
I
to
think
help
I'm
them.
more asking, that because I feel like, it's such a large family and the comfort that comes from having such a large extended family,
Yes.
and there are so many, and, spent so much of time thanks to your mother with them, she didn't isolate you from that.
Yes. And so then I actually learned from them how to be uh, more social with everyone.
Yeah.
Uh, that helped me because right after that, I went and worked at the Oberoi Hotel in Calcutta, where
Hmm.
the bajre ka roti and that
It
chutney
became
was,
millet real suddenly.
yes, which is a delicacy put up on the blackboard for
Yeah, yeah,
today's special.
yeah,
And I look at that and I find that so funny because back there it's also a delicacy,
yeah, yeah.
but
It's like,
it's
when I mean, I come from Eastern UP and litti chokha is a normal thing, and suddenly now litti chokha is a delicacy, Otherwise, it was just
yes.
something you had at home.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So I had to sort of balance that in my head, saying I'm not underprivileged, but I should not act like I'm overprivileged. I should have empathy for both.
yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your name, It's so interesting because you've written about it. And, your father, who he was Khan.
Answer.
Yeah, Khan Saab. And, obviously he had his own family. So, and your mother, it's so interesting, the entire thing. Would you like to tell it?
So Khan Saab was a patron in the kotha where my mother was wife, and he tried to woo her for a long time, but she didn't give in because she knew that he's a married man. But somehow, I guess he managed to charm her that she fell for him.
She met
And
his wife also, no? Just to see, to gauge the damage, I suppose. I think you've written that, no?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
so
And
so
she felt
sh
like she can take care of herself. So,
yes, absolutely,
yeah,
that's what it is. So when he was wooing her, she said, "I'd like to meet your wife, just so that I first understand what is my what is my place in your heart, in your life." And when she So Khansab arranged for them to meet accidentally, like two heroines in a film, uh,
yeah.
probably like Devdas or Silsila, where they don't know about each other, but they've come face to face.
Yeah.
So, and that's when my mother realized that the woman was very nice and she didn't want to ruin her life by being the second wife. So she told Khan Saab that I don't want to marry you and stay in Parda because I will have to convert and be your Parda wali bibi. These are things that would limit my freedom. So as long as uh, this has happened, I've fallen in love with you because you charmed me, and that's fine. But beyond that, there's nothing. So then she after a while when it got ugly because of course it gets complicated like any other relationship between a man and woman, she decides that she wants to live independently and raise her child with her own name. Now what is her own name? She doesn't have a title. She's only called as Rekha Bai in the kotha.
Yeah.
Um, so when she takes me to the boarding school in Kershaw, the principal asks, "What is your child's father's name?" And she says, "Why isn't the child's mother's name enough? So can you just say?" Uh, she then took her father's name, which is Tamaichikar, and said, you know, Rekha Tamaichikar, so use Tamaichikar. And he said, "No, we need the father." So she panicked and said her elder sister's husband's name, which was Gagade. So his name was Anup Gagade. So, so when she said Anup Gagade, the principal heard Gadgade or Gadbade or something like that. So she repeated it a few times. So this is in the hills of Bengal, very far away from Maharashtra. They haven't heard surnames like that. So Gargade, Badbade became Gaikwad. He said, "Is it Gaikwad?" And she said, "Yes, it's Gaikwad." So that name stuck. So then I became Manish Gai. Uh,
And then you
but
changed
grow,
the spelling, no, to A because of Rajnikant's
yeah,
surname.
but yeah. So growing up in the boarding, a lot of students would ask me if I was related to Anshuman Gaikwad, the cricketer. And because my GK was all right, I knew that Rajnikant's real name is Shivaji Rao Gai. So I used to say, "No, I'm not Anshuman Gaikwad's relative. I'm Shivaji Rao Gaikwad's relative."
Yeah.
They would be like, "Who is that?" It's like, "You people, you don't even know basics. Rajnikant."
And
So,
then,
and then I changed the spelling from Gaikwad to the one that Rajnikant spells with
yeah,
an E. And then I found out that there is a Gaikwad of Baroda, the Gaikwads of Baroda with the same spelling. Uh, so that made me feel a little sense of pride that I belong to royalty.
yeah, yeah.
So I didn't
Rajnikant
mark,
and royalty. Yeah,
yes, Rajnikant and royalty. And then I went along with that for a while with that sense of pride that I had a princely surname. But when I heard Parvati Khan singing in the 80s, and when I
yeah,
saw her and I thought, if she can have a name which combines both the faiths, both the religion, what a stunning name to have, Parvati Khan. Why can't I have a name like Manish Khan?
yeah,
Uh, but my mother was, of course, not, I mean, because I'm not his legitimate child,
yeah. I like the way you
illegitimate
called
child.
him your illegitimate father. I think
Yes.
that's better. Let's stick to that.
Yes, so since he is my illegitimate father, so I didn't get to that. But in the times that we live right now, when I have made my peace with all of this, if I have a name like Manish Khan Gaikwad, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, that would be nice. Really. So, it made me wonder, when I was reading your book and all this identity, like you're literally constructing it for yourself, right? A little bit of this, little bit of that, and you're just constructing it, not even deconstructing it. You're just constructing the entire thing. So it just made me think that, when we meet people and, somebody asks you, okay, where are you from? Where did you study? What does your father do? What does your mother do? And you write it also, no, mother, housewife, father, this. And for you, it must be so difficult because there's so much to explain. And, I mean, like, your mom is such a huge part of your life. So, the music, the color, it's so filmy, everything. So when you meet somebody, it must be very difficult because to introduce yourself. So, has it got easier?
On the contrary, I think, Anuradha, I found it far more interesting to talk about my mother's profession, even as a child. If somebody, like you just said, like, you would say your mother housewife, it's one boring word.
Yeah,
Whereas if they ask me, what does your mother do? I used to say, my mother, she's a performer, she's a singer, she's a dancer, she's on stage, she dances like this, and I would show some moves. And she
yeah,
sings like this, and I would sing a tune. And so all the other kids were very fascinated that uh, I had such an artistic background. And I was very proud of that. So at no point was it difficult for me to share about my mother. So, but here's the part which becomes difficult is how do I tell them about my father? Because I have a non-existing father.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, at a very early stage, my mother said, whenever somebody asks you about your father, just say he died.
Yeah. And before that, she said he's waiting downstairs. He can't come up, right? Up the hill to the school. So, and then later she conveniently said, just say that he's dead. So,
Yeah, because at the age of 5 and 6, I don't think any kid is asking me, what is your father? What does your father do?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But as you grow older, when you're 9, 10, maybe, is when they're asking. And at that time, I thought this was a clever way of me not even lying actually by saying he's dead because I had taken my uh, aunt's uncle's name,
Yeah.
my
Right.
mother's sister's husband's name, who
Yeah.
had actually died.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
He had died. So, and because we were from that Gagre to Gaikwad,
Yeah.
so I didn't flinch at the thought of saying he's dead.
Yeah.
So it was, and that was actually the easier part to deal with. When you say, "What is your mother?" She's a housewife. What is your father? He's a scientist. What is your father? He's dead.
So that's easier.
That's
End
it.
of, end of
That's it. No,
conversation.
end of conversation. So I don't have to deal with that part at all.
Yeah. So, did you ever meet your father? Because you were trying to meet him at one point, right? In your book.
So as a child, I've seen him in the kotha,
Of
and
course, of course. Yeah. Then you
yes,
did. I think he was in and out, right? At that time. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
But when I got back to Calcutta in 2019, because of my mother's health, I had to take care and all of that. Uh, I did give it a thought to go and meet him, and I went up to his shop and I stood outside, and and then I stopped myself from going.
Yeah. But you left a message, right?
I
I think his
actually,
sons were also trying to reach out to you in the middle or something. See, I told you I'll fill in for you.
right, oh, right.
Yeah.
So
You don't
the
remember, I remember. How weird is this? Yeah.
so one of his cousins or somebody, mama or something like that, had reached out to my mother saying that his sons are looking for me. So
Yeah.
she passed on that information to me, and I said, "Why are they looking for me?" So she said, "अब तो उम्र हो गई है, अब तो वो नमाजी हो गए, तो
Yeah.
obviously it makes sense that he's reached a certain age where he wants to atone his sins.
Hmm.
So he wants to make peace with his child."
Yeah.
And I said, "That's very cool, and I'd love to meet him so that at least I can ask him to return that really precious diamond ring that you."
Yeah.
But somehow we never got around to that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he's alive or dead.
Yeah.
I have not met him in what, 30 years, I think,
Okay.
or 20 years.
Yeah. But I was very sad to read that your mom passed because when I was reading the first book, I didn't realize. So, I just didn't realize. I was like, oh, she would be so wonderful to talk to and stuff. And the second book towards the end, like I was telling you, it's like, it's literally, when I realized it was so emotional the way you've written it, the way you bonded towards the end. You spent so much time together. It was so wonderful to see, and you took care of her and everything.
I tried my best. I was a little late, but I tried my best.
Yeah.
So my mother's health situation actually made a mother out of me,
Yeah.
and it made me understand her as my child.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying towards the end, it just feels like it's a love story between your mother and you. It's just both of you, like you said that, she just had me when you're leaving her in the train and you're not realizing that, you're being so careless because you're young, obviously, right? It's
Yes,
just you and her. It's
absolutely.
I'm so glad you wrote the book, because for people to know and for everybody to read,
Yes,
really.
absolutely.
I mean, that's your introduction really to the world. So, to anybody who meets you, sorry, I'm getting emotional now because that's how I felt at the end of the book. It's such a lovely tribute.
Thank
But tell
you.
me, how was it your relationship? Because at one point, like, when she had a boyfriend and you were like, this is going to come to no good, So it's almost like a sibling or something like that, when you were away and you knew that this guy is up to no good.
I think when you grow up in a kotha, you realize that all these relationships in the kotha with men are temporary. I know that instinctively without somebody telling it to me that how relationships work. Because you see, you observe, and you learn, and you don't have to ask those uncomfortable questions. So you know that all the men flitting in and out of the kotha are just guests. They are here
Yeah.
for a while, and then these women will end up lonely, alone, and probably just depressed. All of them, because for them, there's no one in the end. And that's something I have known for so long that I have trained myself to live alone, uh, understanding that being queer is also living in a sort of solitary confinement uh, of yourself when it is so largely unacceptable in society. And you have to, again, make peace with that first before anything else. And so that's something I'm very comfortable.
Yeah,
And my
hmm.
and my mother's relationship with me for a while was fraught in my teenage years. But I think I came around in the later years of my life when situations brought us back together.
Yeah.
But for a very long time, when I was not speaking to her because she was trying to get married and settled and all of that without understanding who I am and where I am in life. That's the part that fractured our relationship.
Yeah. You said that you never came and told her outright that, you're queer, you're gay, but you felt towards the end that she knew, right?
You know, I feel like, Anuradha, that no mother is unaware of what their child is up to. And for a courtesan raising a Nazuk boy in Kotha, she knows that her child is queer. It's that fear of being unaccepted by society that makes her want to, makes her not confronted. And of course, as a child, also when I was confused whether I'm a boy or girl, the teenage years of finding that balance of masculinity and femininity. Uh, then there is that again a longer phase of when will I get married and settle down. So through all of that, I realized that there is so much tension about opening up uh, because uh, sh- it's easy for me to tell her that I'm queer, but her entire family, that's the part that's going to be very difficult. So it's best not to tell her because she has to deal with so much more from them.
Yeah, like better not to put it in words, really.
Yes, yes. So she
Hmm.
knows, but she's wishing against hope that it'll
Hmm.
turn.
No, I
Like all
love the way.
mothers.
Yeah, yeah. I love the way you've written it in the first book. That hormone ki koi gadbadi thi when she's talking about somebody, and you've left it there. You just and in the second book you refuted it. Ki, what do you mean hormone ki koi gadbadi thi? you know, because the first book is solely her voice, I guess. So you
Yes,
can't put
yes.
your opinion there. So
Absolutely. Bang
yeah.
on, you've got that. That's great.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So interesting. Also, you've written a lot about, I'll read it out again, that I was surrounded by sex in my adolescent years, The kotha was turning into a brothel where kids did what they saw adults do. When the pardas fluttered in a gust of wind, children saw flashes of intimacy between patrons and their mothers, which fueled their curiosity. So there's a lot of sex in your book, I mean, not to titillate, but it's just there, and normally you grow up, and in India, we're supposed to be, whatever, so sanskari, and you don't see this. But for you, it was normal, it was not a taboo subject. It's something you saw around you, living in a small one room, also, which you've written about, and if there was anything going on, if you turned your head, you would catch something, right? And otherwise, also in your hostel, you've written about suddenly somebody made their husband, and that's another thing. One would talk about abuse for Nazuk boys, really. But I think you were strong through it all, right? Like your mother, you were not a victim. So I'm just saying all this, but there's a lot of, like you said, surrounded by sex. So uh, how is that, from growing up otherwise? I mean, being protected from it all.
Uh, I'll have to think about your question now.
Yeah,
We
yeah, please
are.
think. Please think. Take your time.
We are products of sex and intimacy and love,
Yeah,
all of us. So it's very natural to be surrounded by it in a kotha and find nothing unnerving or disturbing about it, because even if it's there, it's in a warm embrace. There's nothing violent about it. I don't know how it works out for patrons and um, sex workers in a brothel. I've not probably not seen whether it's tender or it's violent, but in the kotha it isn't. So we don't see it as an aberration. Of course, we don't talk about it, but we are aware of it. And so if the boys and the girls are also acting it out, it's there is a sense of consent in it that both parties are willing. Now, when I go to the boarding school, also that consent applies for to some extent, till it gets to a point where uh, some older kids take advantage, and then it turns ugly, because then it becomes a situation for me where if I report about it, then I'll become the victim. Then I'll become the victim who will be shunned. Uh, and I didn't want that to happen for myself, because uh, I didn't want that to be a sense of shame reaching my mother. And I wanted to sort of not let my studies be affected by all of it. So I didn't let it make me into a sad child.
yeah. You and your mother, I guess you have that in common, right?
Yes, I think it's just that we are so resilient about all of this that
Mm,
we don't allow it to affect us in a bad way.
yeah,
It affects us. Of course, we have emotions and feelings, but we don't let it ruin our chances of overcome.
yeah. That's really fantastic. And tell me, you also said, I'm just talking about your mother's legacy. You also, one is resilience and, not being a victim and finding joy, in everywhere, And it's not like you're so sad and you're finding a little bit of joy. The entire experience comes across as, okay, tough, but it's also joyous, That's life. And also, you just said, that you used to being alone a lot. So how has that been, from childhood? Like, I was going to say I've seen you. I've not seen you. I've read your book. So, so you were alone as a child dealing with your emotions because obviously your mom didn't know what to do with a child, right? She had no idea. She didn't know any better. And even later. So how has that shaped you today? What is your mother's son, really, right? So what has that made you?
And rather, we reflect on our lives in the way that we grow up, affected by the world around us. So when I reflect on my life, it is with a lot of joy and laughter because I come from a world of entertainment. First and foremost, it's entertainment. Um, there is a veneer under it, which is melancholic, which is um, probably sad and the life of a joker in a circus that you have to make others laugh while you are suffering and weak. But but the but what is life if it's not to be celebrated and be happy and joyous? What is our pursuit in life? It can't be pain and agony. We have to overcome them. So that's how we are. And then the part about me growing up alone for so long, it's because in the boarding school, I was all by myself. My mother was not around. I don't have a sense of a father. And then again, realizing very early on that I'm a queer child, that sense of not being accepted by the herd finds the boy being sort of isolated and on his own. And so I find comfort. So when I'm spending my time in the library with the books, I'm not really as alone as the world thinks. I am surrounded with lots of great minds and really having a really good gala fun time. So, of course, books are my friends and companions, and I spend a lot of time reading and writing from a very early stage in my life. So I never found myself a sorry figure.
Yeah. That's very evident. Yeah. And about your mom also, before I get on to the next thing, it's, you've said exactly this about your mother, that, she was donating a lot of money, frequenting dargahs, etc. And, it confused you when you saw her weeping, sobbing. And you said, how could I have known she wished for a better life? She never told me her troubles. What would I have done knowing them? I saw her as a feisty, independent woman living on her own terms. I did not know she desired love, comfort, and a life without adversity and hardship, which she made look effortless at the kotha. Right? Yeah.
I remember this because once she said to me that you will do fine in life. You found a way to deal with your loneliness, which is books.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, after retirement, the Tawaifs, where do we go to seek solace? What do we do? The music is over, the dance is over. What do? We hit the bottle, and that can't be a good place to go.
Very insightful. Yeah.
So that's what happens to most of them, and that's the reality and fact of it. But and it's lucky and fortunate if the child grows out of that and doesn't take after them for all those things.
Yeah.
So towards the end of her life, she was kind of content in the thought that I'll be fine.
Yeah. That's really nice. Nice for you to know. Yeah. And for her to know. But you said about spending time in the library. So I remember reading that you took to books and writing because you couldn't dance, you realized on stage, right? It made you look like an oddity. So, so then you say, what else can I do? And then you started writing and reading, right? Am I
Yeah, it
getting it
was,
right?
see, yes, it was a performative act in the kotha where I was applauded, but in the boarding, it wasn't. So that made me think that something is wrong with me and something is wrong with what I'm doing. So, the audience is not accepting of it. So maybe I'm failing at it. And so I have to do something else.
That's
So
so
that's,
sweet. You didn't realize in the beginning that means that there was something wrong. You just felt you're not putting up a good enough performance.
yes, yes, yes.
Amazing. Yeah. Like you're lacking somewhere, so maybe I should shift focus elsewhere.
Yeah, I didn't feel, and so which is why I think right now I have stage fright. I can't get on stage and talk to an audience because I think they won't appreciate it, and I'll be at a loss words to express myself because I'll be looking at a sea of crowd and thinking, why are they not reacting? It's very unlike the boisterous environment in the kotha where we are
Yeah.
just all celebrating. So it makes me very conscious not to be in any of the fine arts and find a corner and read my books.
That's wonderful. Okay, before I forget, I have to ask you about your name again, Montu and Monty and the Rishi Kapoor connection. It's so nice. Like you said, your mom was an extra in that song, right?
Yes.
Karz, the Karz song, yeah.
Shanti.
Yeah, Om Shanti Om, yeah.
Yes, so she was, so there was this sort of doubt about her in Congress House in Bombay, who would come to listen to the Tawaifs, and he would lure them to come to a film set, saying they'll be paid handsomely in cash just to hang around or just to be a part of the crowd or just to be a background dancer or chorus girl and things like that. So the girls, the Tawaifs, uh, they are usually very busy after 6 p.m. every single day. So, but there is a lull period, let's say during the monsoon when the patrons are not coming around, or maybe if there is a festival when the patrons are not around, or when there's a band or something. So then the girls would get on to the Charni Road train and go to, I think, Goregaon, Film City, or I don't know which other studios, wherever the studios were, whether it was in Chennai or somewhere else. And they would go on these sets and they would do as asked and they would get paid very well. So in one of these instances, she was in the audience for Om Shanti, and she was completely in love with Rishi Kapoor dancing on stage. And she probably asked somebody, what are those disco words, disco letters written behind him, Monty, Monty. And she thought that that's the name that she'll give to her child if it's a boy, saying Monty. But Monty was probably just very anglicized for, Indians
Yeah,
who would have preferred to call him Mantu and
yeah, yeah,
Montu. And in Bengal, there are a lot of Montus.
yeah.
So I think the initial idea was Monty, and it got corrupted to other pet names.
Yeah, everything is so filmy. I mean, life must be dull now. Really.
True, true. Life outside the quotas is really quite drab.
Yeah, I'm sure. But tell me, this working in Bollywood now in a way, right? Uh, I mean, how is that? How was it the first time? And you've written about the first time you encountered Rishi Kapoor from a distance. And just, you're writing scripts, you worked at Red Chilies, and you're doing all that. So how is it, like coming full circle? What does it feel? How do you feel inside? Is it this thrill that, it's like full circle? Because in a way, what I'm trying to say is that you were part of it through your mother,
Hmm.
Rekha Bai. You were part of it.
Yeah, then I didn't have access growing up.
Yeah,
Had we lived in Congress House in Bombay since the 80s, then I would probably have got into the film line much earlier, or probably I would have become a musician. Something I think I, that would have Bombay's glamour would have rubbed off on me.
yeah,
But because I went to a boarding school and literary minded, so I grew up with this ambition to be a writer. But writing can lead you to uh, film writing also, like
yeah,
from being a journalist to writing a novel, then getting a chance to work in cinema. But I think it's a natural progression for a writer. But sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it's an accident. So for me, I think it was a combination of taking a while and an accident when a friend of mine working with Imtiaz Ali in his team, writing team, asked me to come to Aram Nagar in Versova and do an audition for a writer. That was new to me. Like, what is an audition for a writer? So they had a round table in Mukesh Chabra's office, casting agent Mukesh Chabra's office, where writers from all walks, I suppose, or mainly screenwriters, sat around the table talking about their previous experiences or their profile. And I was very nervous because I had never done anything, and I was just quietly just carrying my first novel with me just in case I got a chance to give it to Imtiaz Ali. But when they asked me, and I was the first one to go, they asked me, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a journalist," and that's it. And then the round table went for about an hour where each one talked about how great they were in their jobs and all of that. And I felt very small saying, "What am I doing? Why am I here?" And, I'll probably never get it. But the writing of that web series, she involved speaking to police officers and just a general sense of a sort of journalistic style to follow for writing. And so that really helped that I was a journalist and they took me on board.
I think
Because
it's like
then,
serendipitous, that's what it came across. You know, it's like full
yes.
circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I never got to give Imtiaz that book because I thought, well, I got the job, so I don't need to give my book.
You should give him both now, I'm sure.
I sent him the previous book. I don't know if he's had the time to read it. This one I haven't yet.
Yeah, there's so many colorful characters, like your mom's cousin, Hasina, and she was on the cover of DVD or something of Merchant Ivory.
Yes.
And they'd spiced up the connection a little bit and everything. So I'll let people read the book, because there's so much going on. It's like, I think you've done a great service, to that era of, now there are no longer the kothas, and you said that the last courtesan, that was your mother. It's a wonderful exercise, that you've done in this, capturing that entire time.
She's not the last courtesan, but she's emblematic of that
Yeah,
time,
yeah. Because
saying the
that's
period.
that's when it was petering
Yes.
out, really, the trend. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in a way, I mean, you're right, because in the end of her book, she says that she was the last courtesan in that particular kotha.
Yeah.
So, I use that for the title.
Right. So, before we end, again, there's so much to talk. You write a lot about being an author on LinkedIn. So I had to ask you, you know, and how to get the right agent and the publishing houses and stuff like that. So I had to, and you said there are just like 10 agents in India, right? So I want to ask you, if you want to divulge, who is your agent? And how is it life as a writer? Is it tough? What is it like?
I'm still trying to figure out who my agent is.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the first question I've answered. What the next question was, how is life as a writer?
As a writer, yeah.
Around the agents, you mean, or around the publishers?
No, no, just around you. Being a writer, how does a writer make the living?
You don't make a living by writing. You make
Yeah,
a living by doing something else in life. You write for the love of writing. You don't make a money. You don't make you. It doesn't pay your bills
so then how
unless
does it
it's.
matter who your agent is? You're not making money anyway, right?
No, no. You make.
Tell,
You
yeah,
get an advance. You get an
okay.
advance.
So
That's a
that has to be
good.
negotiated by a good agent.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
a good amount that you can get by your agent. Then you
yeah,
can forget about royalty and all of that because that
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
will take forever.
Of course, yeah.
But script writing, I think
Mm.
that's okay. Here's the reason why I moved from being a journalist uh, to being a script writer is because that's where the money is.
Right.
But the opportunity, I don't know how it's going to come to you or you're going to get to the opportunity. It's just a matter of luck
Yeah,
and maybe
absolutely.
being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. But if you get it, grab it because that's where the money is. But if you think as a writer of books, novels, and nonfiction, you'll make money. I mean,
I think people should just follow you on LinkedIn. And because you're sharing so much, advice there and gyan, really. So it's just great.
yes,
Yeah.
it's recently gotten me into a lot of trouble.
Huh.
But I'm glad that lots of journalists are picking up on that and saying how unusually candid it has been to share that with
Yeah, actually, that's what I
everybody.
came across first before your book, and that's how I added you, and then I started following the rest of it.
See, so that's really helped us get here.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks so much, Manish. And anything you want to add?
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot, quite a lot.
First let's think about what we've done and
Yeah, it's more
bring
than
it.
even I expected, really.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much.